Hello, hello. Check, check, check. Anybody? Anybody? Hello? Hello? Matt, are you gonna be able to let us in before it starts? Question mark.
Right. Almost 6 o'clock. Jonathan should be on here. Oh, I think I can move him myself to the webinar.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, David.
Perfect.
And then Lorraine is with us as well.
I do not have video.
You don't want it or you don't have it?
I don't have it. I don't see where it says, I see where it says audio.
Down the bottom left, you should see audio, video.
I don't have video.
Weird. What device are you on?
I am on my Windows laptop, which I usually am always on.
Yeah, I don't know. That's very odd.
Q transcripts,
You text in the link.
resources. David Donahue. Okay, interesting. Audio settings.
All righty. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Rebuild Roadmap. Today's topic is engineering value, rebuilding to maximize your family's investment. And it is extremely hot in my garage office, right? Oh, it's 93 in my garage office right now. That's why I literally started sweating the moment I walked in. So I'm going to turn on that air conditioner. And I hope everyone is doing well and having a great week. I just want to welcome everyone to Rebuild Roadmap. This is our fifth installment, fifth episode of Rebuild Roadmap, which is a webinar series that we do currently bi-weekly. And these are also recorded and placed on YouTube, and we cover a variety of educational topics. For those of you whom this may be your first time, I see some familiar faces as well. And it's just all about getting what information we can to Altadena homeowners who are in the rebuilding process or looking to begin the rebuilding process to make sure that everyone is just armed with as much foreknowledge as they can be, because this is not a situation anyone woke up on New Year's thinking they were going to be doing this year. And so we want to, as much as possible, make this an easy process, or easier at least. My name is Matthew Hartwell. I'm the head of experience at BZ Build Co. I handle client relations, and I also moonlight as our IT manager. So when you saw me poking around trying to figure out how Zoom works earlier, it's because, 5 years into the pandemic, I still haven't quite mastered Zoom. I apologize. Tonight, we have with us David Donahue And our speaker, Jonathan Gallagher, both are build specialists with us at BZ Build Co. These are two extremely knowledgeable gentlemen about the entire rebuild process. And tonight, Jonathan is going to be spearheading this talk all about how you can maximize during your rebuild the kind of long-term strategies for maximizing the wealth, because this is the biggest investment most people are ever going to make. And making sure that you're setting yourself up for success, and if you're planning on passing this on to children, or for when you do plan to sell it, making sure that you're getting the maximum return on it, that sort of thing. Without further ado, if you gentlemen want to introduce yourselves, David, I'll let you go first, so that Jonathan, when you introduce yourself, you can just head right into the talk. And then, real quick, housekeeping. Did you want me to run the slideshow for you?
Yes, please.
Will do.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Matt. I know that if you can elevate me as a host or something like
Yes,
that,
I believe I can. Give me one
that'll
moment.
probably allow me to get on screen. And while you're doing that, thank you very much for that fantastic introduction. I appreciate it. And thank you, Jonathan, for putting.
Sorry, he cut out for a second because I just promoted his account to panelist, so he should be rejoining. And David, you'll have to unmute yourself and re-enable your video because you should have just rejoined.
There he is.
Perfect.
Awesome. We're
Gentlemen,
back.
Hey, everybody. Thank you very much. Really want to thank for the introduction, Matt. Really appreciate it, Jonathan, for putting everything together. And yes, 5 years of pandemic, we're still trying to figure out the Zoom functionality. So appreciate your patience as we do that. My name is David Donahue. I am a build specialist with BZ Build Co. I've been in the construction industry for just over 25 years. So I am excited to be a part of this fantastic company and for this particular topic. This is something I think one of the things that we've been doing presentations to fire survivors, people that are looking to rebuild, is that I constantly and have regularly heard Jonathan talk to people about the significant incentives, the financial incentives of why you should rebuild. And so when we were talking about this rebuild roadmap with these workshops, I was like, Jonathan, I really want this to get on camera. I and kind of take advantage of your insight and knowledge about all of the multiple benefits of rebuilding. So without much more kind of fanfare, I just want to kind of turn it over to you, and then we can get this presentation started.
Awesome. Thank you both. Really excited to talk about this topic. Uh, yeah, as you both confirmed, we are not necessarily the most tech savvy. We are builders, but we love technology, and we're here to continue to advance in our practice. So this is a topic I'm extremely excited about. Your home is your home. It's your temple. However, it is most people's greatest asset. It's kind of the vehicle that drives your personal net worth. Most of the value and wealth that you create over your lifetime is in your home through appreciation. And so we're going to be covering several different topics today within rebuilding and the opportunity that all of you have in front of you to rebuild your home and take advantage of this open canvas. And we'll walk through different strategies from rebuilding, design, tax incentive, potential for rental income, etc. So we're going to start. We'll cover a lot of different areas, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A at the end of the webinar. So let's jump into it. And then David's going to be throwing out some questions to me throughout the presentation, just so we can dive a little bit deeper. So why is rebuilding a smart move? Well, today is we're really going to be focused on helping homeowners and quote unquote landowners unlock full potential of your property. This means you're not going to release it back to the open market. You have a really valuable opportunity now to rebuild your home. There will be significant value in the end once the product is built and delivered. If you look across multiple neighborhoods, you see new construction selling at a significant premium. One thing we'll talk about later in this webinar is that new construction it's a new asset category. Because previous homes were built in the 1920s, 30s, Many of the homes in this neighborhood were older, and so there's this opportunity now that we're sort of reinventing a new class of home with new technology that will withstand the test of time. We hope and can be here for another 100 years. Next slide. All right, so we're going to discuss maximizing potential of your property, rebuilding versus selling. So we're seeing a lot of lots pop up on the market. Unfortunately, as time goes on, as we're seeing sort of discouraging numbers with the number of permits that are issued, we're seeing the number of lots for sale increase. A lot of professionals within the real estate business are saying that they're expecting the number of lots to increase as far as the supply, which is going to bring down the value of the land. And here at BZ Buildco, that's really disappointing to us because we really feel like we're here to support the community. That's one of our really our biggest traits as builders is to help the community come back. And so we really want to utilize this webinar as an opportunity to teach you about why we think you should rebuild versus sell, preserving equity and really equity preservation. So as a homeowner, you have significant amount of equity. If you purchased your home many years ago, I'm sure your house is worth maybe 2 times, 3 times what you paid for it. And so if you're looking at the market now in terms of what land is selling for, land, the lots are selling for maybe $500,000, $600,000. However, the value of the homes when they're done can be worth several million, and potentially even more if you have multiple units on your property, which we'll talk about as far as rental income. Getting out of your insurance money out of your insurance policy. So if you choose to rebuild, you're going to be able to unlock all the different categories within your insurance policy. One thing in particular is the extended coverage and the ordinance and law. And we're experiencing conversations with many clients and families, and they were underinsured or they're learning about their insurance policy, and they've been approved for 75% of their policy, and they're fighting for the additional coverage. And so if you do not rebuild and you choose to sell, you're withholding the ability to be able to collect those extra dollars. And as an insurance policy holder, you paid for that policy. So you have access to that capital if you choose to go through the necessary steps to get there. And that may be obviously very tedious, tiresome, and require a lot of effort and energy. But if you hire, a really good design or architect team and a good builder to help you get there, they can coach you on how all the different necessary steps to be able to access those coverages. Wealth creation through rebuilding. So whether or not you are going to be living in this house for the rest of your life, you intend to utilize it as a rental property, or you're going to pass it on to your kids, this property is a vehicle to really accelerate your net worth over the test of time. Real estate over history has been an asset class that kind of fights inflation, and so a lot of times within wealth creation this is something that's overlooked and extremely powerful.
So I want to jump in real quick and just let people know we're going to go into a lot of detail here. So much so that, again, selfishly, I asked Jonathan to put this together because I wanted not only for myself, but everybody else that we talk to have it as a resource. But getting the most out, the value out of your property is to rebuild, and we're going to really dive into that. If anybody has any questions, I just want you to put it into the chat. Raise your hand, put it into the Q&A. Matt and myself are going to be watching that. So if you hear anything that Jonathan's talking about, you want to know more about it, just pop that in there. We'll be sure to try to address it.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Next slide. All right. So the cost of selling, there's a lot of hidden costs within selling real estate that many folks don't think about. You can say, my house is worth 1 million or 1.5, But when you sell it, you have to pay realtors, you have to pay legal, title, escrow fees, etc. So um, if you decide to sell and you're selling land, you're going to have to pay fees on top of that. And so I'm thinking about those things um, where is not really in the best interest if you're trying to maximize value here. Uh, Additionally, there's going to be capital gains tax exposure. So this is something that we definitely advise you to consult with a tax professional. But if you do decide to sell, um, you'd have to pay tax on those gains. And then the loss of future appreciation. So like I had mentioned before, is real estate is an asset class that kind of withstands the test of time and fights inflation. Um, and so over the course of time, as home values continue to increase in price, if you sell your home, you're losing the ability to collect future appreciation. Next slide. Rebuilding and to hold it, and also just creating a long-term equity here. So instant equity. So let's talk about just new appraised value. And I like to use the term all-in project cost. So I have a development background. I've developed lots of smaller multifamily projects from the ground up. I've done some single family house flips and also some substantial renovations. And so one of the things you really want to look at, and we get asked all the time is, well, what does it cost to build per square foot? And so when I'm thinking price per square foot, I'm thinking all in order to go from land to certificate of occupancy, getting your keys with a fully delivered home that you can move into, you've got to be able to get your plans, you've got to be able to get permits, you've got to be able to execute the construction, get all your utilities activated and live, and then you can move in. And so at that time, when you get that certificate of occupancy, you can get an appraisal and you can get traditional financing on that property. And that's when you're really going to be able to determine what the value is of the home. And so going back to price per square foot is what is the cost going to be to build this structure and looking at what is the end value? What is it going to be worth? And if we're looking at comps in the market right now, and I'm not super experienced with the local market in terms of sales prices, you'd want to consult with a local realtor, but the homes may be selling for 800, 900, even $1,000 a square foot. And especially given it's a new construction. So that leads right into kind of the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is a new asset category. New construction trades and or sells for significantly higher than older homes. If you take a look on Zillow or Redfin, you'll tend to see that the homes that are either completely renovated that developers or house flippers went into and uh, refinished and installed all new water lines, all major systems, roofs, water lines, electricity. Maybe they installed solar, they did all new hardscape, the interior finish, tile, etc. They're going to get the most bang for their buck and driving up that price per square foot. And so materials design and really this energy efficiency as well as, new systems are going to drive up the price of your home. And that's how we came up with this, kind of asset category. And so as a new construction, you're really separating yourself from a lot of the older homes that are in the Los Angeles area. Future lending opportunities. This is a huge one. Um, as a fire survivor, not only are you getting the insurance funds, but you're also getting a access to SBA financing, which we were told by them at one of the in-person events that the total was, or the max amount was 500,000. However, we've heard from some families recently that they've gotten increased limits up to 512. I heard one that was over 600,000. So we believe that the SBA is starting to recognize that several members of the community are underinsured, and they're looking to help them. This money from the SBA at sub 3% is really it's I'd like to say it's a once in a lifetime opportunity at this point in time, given where interest rates are today. And we may never see those sub 3% interest rates like we had during COVID in the next 25 or 50 years. So being able to utilize that leverage and or loan dollars to rebuild provides you significant value and upside. Once the home is done, and I talked a little bit about your appraised value. If your appraised value comes in significantly higher than what the home was worth before, you've got options. You could potentially take out a home equity line of credit, a HELOC, and you can use that. Uh, you can use those dollars to pay for kids' education or other kind of different financial needs. Cash out refinance is obviously uh, a big opportunity if you were to develop your property significantly larger than you had before. When I say larger, I mean adding an ADU or some kind of other income generating vehicle. And then something that that David and I were discussing yesterday was a reverse mortgage. You know, this is not the most popular uh, lending uh, strategy. However, some people, especially in the community, are elderly, and this is an opportunity to create value through your home and then to get that reverse mortgage. So if you don't know what a reverse mortgage is, when you're over the age of 62, you borrow against your home's value, and so they actually pay you monthly to kind of increase the size of your mortgage, so you're decreasing the amount of equity.
Yeah, and
However,
I just want to
yeah.
jump in real quick. I apologize, Jonathan. The reverse mortgages are complex devices, so it's really good to make sure that you talk to somebody who's experienced in working with reverse mortgages. The equity or the additional sort of value to your property is what they're going to be looking at, and also your age. So the more equity, the older you are, the more money you might be able to have access to. But it is definitely a vehicle that Jonathan and I thought it was going to be real important to kind of put out there. A lot of people, if you have your SBA loans, those are going to be the number one thing to tap into because just like Jonathan said, the interest rates are crazy low. And a lot of the interest rates, well, I would say, Jonathan, or if you might agree with me, any one of these three devices are going to be much higher interest rates.
Yes, agreed.
And also, too, you are a licensed real estate agent, correct?
I am, yes.
So you
Yeah,
are qualified. I think the disclaimer that you gave is that you're not necessarily you don't specialize in Altadena.
correct.
But yes,
I,
Jonathan is a professional real estate agent.
yeah, I'm a licensed real estate agent. I have access to the MLS, so I've been able to track, all the different properties that are coming up on the market in Altadena, looking at transactions, who's buying them, uh, what they closed for, and ones that have been sitting on the market and so forth. So we really are in tune with what's happening, and every single time we see the inventory increase, we kind of get a little bit, disheartened. And so, anytime you see David and I in the community, we're really trying to advocate for just build, build, build. This is an opportunity. We understand obviously that it's sad, but your home is your greatest asset. And so, we really want to be able to create a partnership and really find someone that's going to be your partner to help you rebuild. And we think that's the most important aspect within the rebuilding process. So, it kind of goes right into building a legacy, right? Real estate is a legacy asset. It's something that you should be very proud to own, especially when it's close to home. And, you can feel it and you can touch it. And there's a lot of hard work that goes into, building uh, any kind of building. And so if this is something that you intend to keep and or give passed down to your family, you want to make sure that you do it right. You want to make sure that you focus on quality and not just getting it done for as cheap as possible. And so, uh, the saying is, you get what you pay for. And so I think, especially in real estate, it's really important to focus on building quality and something that's going to withstand the test of time. Adding square footage and value. So, we're in this how would you say it, David, with the like within the like for like with the tax basis of people deciding whether or not they should do like for like or they should not, given this this unique situation.
I have to make sure that I mute
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
Thank you. So like for like, a lot of people are, in the beginning were really kind of excited about doing 10% or 200 square feet. Now that we know that that has kind of changed, so anything above that, above your original home square footage is going to be assessed by the LA County. Is that going to change in the future? We don't know. So a lot of folks, I think it's almost 50-50. Some are definitely looking to be able to kind of go beyond that and to really kind of take advantage of their property, because Altadena properties are fantastic because of their size. Whether you're wide and maybe not that deep, or you're really have a deep lot because you're 7,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet or a quarter of an acre, you have a lot of opportunity. And with the current California codes, to build or add additional units like an accessory dwelling unit or an ADU, and then with this crazy legislation called SB9, which some parts of Altadena, I don't think they're going to allow it, but you got to check. But SB9 could basically allow you to do a fourplex. So there are things that we're going to talk about. Jonathan's going to kind of go over here further on, but I think it's 50-50, Jonathan, where people are doing same and then they're looking to really add to it. But that's just what I'm seeing. If you're a little different, please let us know.
Yeah, thank you, David. Within that, the like for like, the benefit for most people in that situation was the tax incentive, and that's going to be one of the next slides that we run through. Um, but many of the homeowners that we're speaking to, they have 10,000 square foot lots and they had 1,000 square foot homes on them. And so, given that level, or I mean that amount of land, you really have endless possibilities. And so, if you can find an architect or a design build company that can educate you on the possibilities and or potential of what you can do on that property, we think it's extremely important to just look at options, weigh your options, whether it's like we said, is adding an ADU, or even your existing floor plan. If you can add some space, we want people to be thinking about the long term, not trying to save $5,000 or $10,000 today when you can really create long-term value in this asset. And because how, like I had mentioned before, is your all-in cost versus your appraised value. If you're looking at your price per square foot to build versus the price per square foot that the property will appraise for, you may have a very, very large margin. And so if you have that ability to add some square footage, and you can tap into some of those funds from the SBA, we believe that there's a lot of advantage to doing so. Next slide, Matt. All right. Creating income without selling. So this is probably one of my favorite areas within real estate to talk about. We're going to go over multiple configurations. The first one, given that many of these properties are zoned R1, that means that they allow a single family residence. Adding an ADU is something, it's a big topic. Dave is an expert on it. He's been doing it for many, many years. And it allows you an opportunity to build something on your land that you can generate income from. Or you can have your kids or your grandkids potentially live in down the road. Or if you're lucky enough, your kids will kick you out of the main house and they'll put you in the ADU and they'll take the house. So every situation is different. We also have, some families that we've talked to where they had a single family lot on an R2 lot that actually allows for a duplex zoning. So there may be opportunity that you don't even know about on your land, and it's important to consult with the professional who can tell you about really uh, any kind of development strategies, configurations that you have the opportunity to build. And so really the two aspects there are lot size and zoning. And you can get really creative, and it's important, to find a good designer because configuring space is probably the greatest art of a designer and or architect.
And one of the things that we had a lot warming last night up on Poppy Fields with our co-founder Ashlyn and her husband Chris. And Jonathan, you had a really good idea. I want you to kind of share. We talked about it after the event. That I think it would be great to be able to include the fact that we could kind of talk to somebody if they wanted to reach out to us. We could give them kind of like a really brief kind of overview of some of their opportunities and some of their costs.
Yeah, absolutely. We met a family yesterday who actually had a duplex, and they were utilizing one of the back units for Airbnb and renting out different bedrooms. And given the fact that their lot was R2 and it was zoned for duplex, and that's what they had, as an R2 lot, you actually by right can build two ADUs. And so this family, they love the short-term rental. They were generating really good income from that particular unit. They wanted to add, we encouraged them, hey, this is an opportunity. You can add two more ADUs. And their ears perked up, and we walked through the process. They have a significantly large lot and where we could place them. And this is just these are some of the aspects of building and talking to working professionals who really have your back and who will be a partner with you, who will listen to you, understand your goals, understand what's important to you, and really kind of try to navigate this situation. In that particular case is they were telling us that they loved renting out their unit. They had additional RVs that they were also renting on their unit. They didn't like renting the RVs because they were a hassle. They got headaches. They break down. People are taking them on, taking them off. And so, we suggested, well, you could replace the RV with an actual living dwelling. And so, given David and I and a lot of the staff at BZ Build Co., although there are obviously many other organizations in the community, is reach out to building professionals and give them your situation, tell them what's important to you, and ask for some advice on what you can and what you can't do.
Yeah, and I think that that's one thing that Jonathan and I feel that if you have any questions or your neighbors or your community group has any question about their individual property, just send us a quick email through the info@bzbuildco.com. It goes right to the fabulous gentleman who's with us, Matt Hartwell. He forwards those on to Jonathan and ourselves. And if you just had a question about what your options are, all we need to do, and we can do it very quickly, is look at what your property is zoned for and give you a quick, like, hey, here's things you can do. If there's a conversation you want to have, a little bit more detailed, we're happy to do that. But this is something that just takes us a couple minutes, and we're happy to do it.
Excellent. So subsidizing living costs, extremely important, right? So we talk, especially within this particular fire rebuild, money is tight. We have insurance companies that are hesitant to pay out. We have families that were had low amounts of coverage, and then you have the SBA financing. If you build an ADU, you're able to create additional living space, potential for additional rental income. You can actually utilize that rental income to offset the new debt that you may acquire from that SBA loan. And so being able to put that on paper, and like I mentioned earlier, this is something definitely you'd want to work hand in hand with your tax or CPA so they can give you some advice on the financial aspect. But we can help you as well in terms of understanding is, if you were to build a rental, potentially what you think you could rent it for and how you could utilize that rental income to offset some of your living expenses, be it a mortgage, insurance, and also property taxes, which leads me right into Prop 13. So, as many of you may or may not know, Proposition 13, it allows you to preserve your property taxes based off of your cost basis, which is what you paid for the property. And so if you purchase your home many years ago when prices were significantly lower than they are today, you'd like to preserve that tax basis. If you inherited your property in a trust from your parents or grandparents and you're still paying taxes on a property that was purchased in the 70s or so, you want to be able to preserve that. And so rebuilding that like for like, that's going to keep you within that Prop 13. And so we're strongly encouraging keeping the like for like for those particular fire survivors. However, if you bought your home in the last, 2, 3 years and there's not that much change in value, then let's look at your options. Um, However, those that fit within that like for like and are trying to keep that Prop 13 advantage, that's where we can really look at creative strategies and figure configurations around the property. Utilizing garage conversion to ADU, or building, a detached unit, or even doing an attached ADU, and something that the structure that will only assess or that will only be assessed new taxes on the improvement value, which would be significantly lower than have you do a brand new property and have it appraised at today's valuation. Next slide, Matt. All right, long-term wealth. So we really want to try to communicate that we think of rebuilding as it's a passive income engine. Uh, and predictable income, right? There's no such thing as a guarantee, uh, especially in the investment world. No guarantees. However, if you look at the general marketplace, there's several websites you could look up: Zillow, Redfin, Apartments.com, Rentometer.com is another really good website where you can track former apartment listings that were active. You can see that even a modest one bedroom could rent for north of 2,000, 2,300. There's also different programs like HACLA and Section 8 that offer to pay pretty good rental amounts north of the $2,000 marker. You can categorize them by zip code to find out, but roughly that's a pretty conservative number in our opinion. And additionally, with rental income, you can factor in that there may be annual rent growth. So historically, if you look at rent prices in LA over the last 20 to 30 years, there's about a 2 to 4% rent increase year over year. Some areas have imposed rent control, and so that would typically be in that 3% range. But if we're looking long term and if you're starting at market rate, because you'd be building a brand new unit, which would mean that you're really going to appeal to someone that wants to live in a nice place. And so I know there's a lot of hesitancy around, well, I don't want to be a landlord and tenant rights and so forth. But if you build a really, really nice ADU, I'm an investor. I own some rental properties. When you have a nice product, you tend to get really good people that want to move in there. And so I think this is a really good opportunity to do so. And then cash flow. If you have a rental property, over the course of time, you're going to have a significant amount of cash flow coming in, which may help you through retirement. We've talked to many fire survivors who are getting towards the end of their working careers, and they are more interested in traveling than staying put in LA. So they've talked to us about building ADU and then potentially renting out their house and having the ADU that they can travel and come back to. So cash flow is definitely something that you can look into if you're going to preserve and keep your building. And then just overall long-term appreciation. I mentioned when we first started this webinar that your home is really one of your greatest assets in terms of increasing your total net worth. And so over the course of the next 5, 10, 25 years, we really believe that there's going to be continued appreciation, especially in a community that's going to be rebuilt with all new homes. And Altadena it's a gorgeous area. It's a beautiful part of LA. And if the community comes together and rebuilds, we think that the values are going to be there. Next slide, Matt. All right, tax benefits. So first and foremost, before we even get into this topic, I really want to advise talking to your CPA to really optimize your tax strategy and also your tax position here. if you were to decide to sell, what's the tax implication of selling your land, and throwing in the towel there? And then also is what's the upside potential of rebuilding? And so the first thing is standard depreciation. So real estate has a 27 and a half year depreciation timeline, which means that you got to depreciate on your personal tax return, income state on your personal tax return, the value of the improvements over a 27 and a half year time frame. This value is deducted off of your ordinary income. And so what you want to do is talk to your CPA about when you rebuild, how that would potentially affect you in a positive manner. The second is really more geared towards people that are building for either investment purposes, or maybe they're going to build and live there for 5 years and then they're going to sell. And so there is a form of accelerated depreciation called cost segregation. And what you have to do is pay for a study. And what they do is they kind of compact your improvement value, taking into consider all of the elements of the home, appliances, windows, molding, doors, etc. And what you can do is you can compress and depreciate your property over a 5, 7, or even 15-year time frame. So you're packing in those losses or that deduction in your taxes earlier than spreading it out over the 27 and a half year time frame.
So Jonathan, you brought up a really good example because we were in a meeting with a person who was talking about wanting to rebuild and she wanted to live in one of the units. She wanted to build a couple, a primary and an ADU, but that she also wanted to look at maybe in that 5, 7+ years of selling. So that's really where that accelerated depreciation really comes into factor. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're able to do through the accelerated depreciation is you're able to pack in your deduction earlier on. And so if you're living in one unit and you're renting the others, you're going to have rental income coming in from those other units. So you're able to actually deduct the expense, because depreciation is expense, which I'll talk about some other expense items below. And so you've got your income and you got your expenses. And that tends to be how real estate investors, you know, make a lot of money over the course of time. They're very good with understanding of managing expenses. So,
So there's a chance that somebody who has some overhead, has some expenses, they've rented something out, they may want to sell it in 7 years. They could really offset all of their income with their expenses. Not that it's a guarantee, but there's a potential that they could, depending on their own individual situation.
yeah, correct. Correct. They could also offset even ordinary income that they're getting from standard jobs. But like I
Oh,
said,
got it.
the best thing to do is to talk to your CPA and see how
100%.
how you can strategize really working through that process. If you're operating a rental property, uh, we have some, families that we've talked to where they've inherited homes and they were only rental properties. You've got expenses that you're gonna have deductibles on: interest for the loan, property taxes, insurance, repairs, landscaping, etc. So rebuilding this asset allows you to take on those expenses while then incurring new income. So well, again, kind of to press the point is we really want to encourage rebuilding. It's a great opportunity, and it's going to unlock a lot of new equity for you in the future. Next slide, Matt. All right, what investors are thinking?
Get ready for this one,
All
folks.
right, yeah. So we've seen a lot of lots for sale. Um, they're definitely transacting. People are buying them. We're looking at who's buying them. It's a lot of LLCs. It's a lot of investors, hidden investors. And so David and I really thought about is presenting this, to our audience, to people that we've interacted with, is what are investors thinking and what are they looking at? Because if they're doing deals, they're only doing deals because they're looking at upside. Investors want to make money, and so we wanted to put this example in front of you to show you kind of potential upside, at least that we believe they may be looking at. So if, for example, you take a lot that's that's $500,000. If you're paying $500,000 for a lot, you're going to build a pretty sizable home on that. And the reason for that is because you've got to be able to make a margin on your investment. And so we figured on an average house, if someone were to build a 2,500 square foot home at a build price of about $475 a foot, and that $475 a foot is just a range. Uh, we've sent out some bids to some of our clients. We've been hearing some numbers in the community. There's some that are lower, there's some that are higher, but we really think that that is probably a conservative number. And if an investor is doing this, uh, they're going to try to really dial in on doing a cost-effective build. So if they're at 475, they're paying almost $1.2 million to build a house. They have got soft costs. They're doing a custom home. They're paying for architecture, design, plans. They got to pay permit fees. They have to pay development costs. So a developer has to actually pay all of these fees, whereas we've heard now fire survivors are going to be waived the permit fee. And now, most recently, we've heard that they may not even have to do solar, which is another large expense that anyone developing a brand new property would have to pay for.
Right, and I just want to kind of add, it is July 10th, 2025, and just within the last week, Supervisor Catherine Barger with Los Angeles County did post that on her social media, Facebook page, and other sort of social media channels. So be sure to kind of check that out, take a look at it, because that's for fire survivors. This is not, as Jonathan just said, not for an investor. So they're not front of line, they're back of line. And that means that they're going to incur a lot more carrying costs, which is really plays into the profit margin that Jonathan's going to talk about.
Yeah, so if you can imagine, it's been 6 months since the fire, and there's only been about 100 or so permits issued. That means if a developer were to purchase land, they would start designing plans, submitting to the county. They may not even have their permit for 7 to 12 months because the fire survivors are first in line. So they're going all the way to the back. They're paying all the fees. And as an investor, you've got to be looking at carrying costs, which is the cost of capital. I mean, that money that's in the project, it could be in the stock market, it could be in bonds, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a cost for the timeline of the project. So we put on a carrying cost over an 18-month period. And then if you're a developer and you're going to sell, you've got to be able to pay a realtor fee and also the escrow legal title. So you got another 6% of closing costs. So if you calculate all these numbers, your land purchase plus the build cost of construction, the soft cost, the carrying cost, and the selling cost, you're going to be in for roughly 2 million to 2.1 million. And that's a lot of money for a 2,500 square foot house. Um, if we look at, historical sales in Altadena, there are several homes that have probably sold for over 2 million, but I think I would say the average or median was probably in the 1 million to 1.5 range. Um, and Matt could probably speak to that because Matt lives over there. But that's what I've seen. And so therefore, if an investor is looking at this transaction, those investors are typically looking at about 30% margin. And so we did this looking at a 20% margin, which is a pretty healthy return, but it's a lot of risk doing a development in an area that was, struck by a devastating fire. And in order for them to justify, a 20% return, they'd have to sell the home for $2.6 million. And so what I'd like to look at here as part of kind of the continuation of this webinar is as a price per square foot, if you look at 2.6 million and a 2,500 square foot house, you're over $1,000 a square foot. So that right there is amazing if that's what the home would sell for. And so an investor going into this, if they're buying lots, this is what they're looking at. And so in terms of people focus on rebuilding, there is likely to be a great opportunity uh, to have a newly appraised value that's that's higher than where you were before, especially given it's a brand new house. So this is an example we threw up. If anyone has any questions, we can definitely answer. And we were going to do one with an ADU as well, but that may have been a little overkill. But we definitely think that investors are looking at buying lots and probably developing single families and ADUs to really try to maximize their returns. Next slide, Matt. Awesome. So BZ Build Co. We are a trusted partner. We would love to be your trusted partner, but we are a trusted partner. Next slide. And what I mean by that is we really work with our clients and anyone that we talk to. If consultations are free. You know, David and I's cell phone is always available, text, phone call. And what we can do is we can really understand your situation. We've got a really extensive team from our head of experience, Matt, all the way through our design team, who designs really amazing floor plans and elevations. We've got a city planning expert who goes down to the county, who vets anything and everything to make sure that we're not kicking our tires and wasting time. And we're here to really ensure that we can work together through the process to design something that maximizes both what you're looking to achieve and what you're looking to spend. And then I want David to add a couple extra lines on why we are a trusted partner.
Well, right now I just want to make sure that we got our cell phones out there. Make sure I got yours right, Jonathan. So we, like you said, we are out here to really kind of provide a service to everybody in Altadena. The one thing too that we want to kind of focus on is people that are just starting, and we had some folks that were like that we met last night at the lot warming that really were just wanting to wait before kind of putting their toe into the water. And we really respect that. This is a really massive project that Jonathan has said. So take your time, be patient, and start where you can. If you need help in the very beginning, some guidance through that design phase, that's what we're here to do. If, like others, you have already reached out to a designer or an architectural firm and you already have a concept or a plan set, we're going to be excited to have the opportunity to bid that for you. So you just send those over to us, send them over to the info at. You can reach us really easily through the website. And again, you get the fabulous Matt Hartwell. We're going to be able to then process that. Give us a couple weeks to kind of go through it. And then you're going to have a line item sort of definition, detailed bid to rebuild that home for you. So we want to, again, no cost of, just like what Jonathan said, to be able to do that particular function. We also want to talk to you about our full service. We think that we're going to be greatly below what some other firms are. So let us just have an opportunity to win your trust, put something in front of you so you can see where our numbers are for your particular project. Also, too, the idea of being able to work with BZ Build Co. is I think we're going to be one of the most dynamic companies in Altadena because I don't know anybody else who has a director of customer experience like Matt Hartwell here. So he's just making sure that in your questions are being answered in a timely manner. And then if you have any concerns, he's going to make sure to take care of those. So have I missed anything, gentlemen?
I was just gonna say, if you are speaking with other contractors and you're getting a line item bid, ask them if it's all in or just soft costs. Because we were talking to a woman last night and she was like, "Oh, I was quoted, 300 per square foot," and we were like, "Okay, does it include this? Does it include hardscaping to your front door? Doesn't it like all these things weren't in that bid? It wasn't actually a bid to a complete house that could be moved into with a certificate of occupancy." And so I would just make sure you're asking because ours are all in bids.
Thank you. And that's a great point. And that's something that Jonathan touched on in the very beginning,
Yeah.
price per square foot. And Matt, you brought up a great point. Is it going to be just the hard cost? And does it include the soft cost? When just like Jonathan said, is it the all-in cost per square foot? So be sure to ask those questions. And again, if you're not really sure, we're happy to look at a bid and be able to say, hey, that's everything, or maybe there's a few things you might want to reach out and get.
Yeah, I want to
And
add
I
to that too.
oh,
Really
go
good
ahead.
point, Matt. There are a lot of general contractors that will provide you estimates that don't include material costs. So they may provide a full estimate that says, "Hey, this is the cost to build your project," but in the small fine print or at start it says customer is responsible for paying for the material cost of windows. Customer is responsible for paying the cost of cabinetry and countertops. Um,
Those don't add up to be very much, do they, Jonathan? That's not that much.
no, those are very expensive items, especially cabinetry, windows as well. And so, one of the things that we do at BZ Build Co. is while we're working through your conceptual design and floor plan, we're actually formulating an itemized bid for you based off of what you're telling us that you want, and also understanding your budget too. Once we formulate a budget for you based off your concept, we then look at moving into the next step, which is the full set of plans and construction docs. And that's where you're really dialing into all the specifics of your construction project, where you're going to have, big ticket or little ticket line items such as windows, doors, exterior materials and finish selections and roofing material and so forth. And we really think it's important that you're having those conversations with your designers, architects, and builders all collectively. And so, yeah, with that, thank you all for coming. I'd love to open it up. If we have some questions, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, and as we're waiting those, I do want to kind of add just one of the things that we are really reaching out to the community to offer is our building space. So we have a very large building at 4123 West Olive. It's the former Bank of America building in Burbank. And we've reached out to numerous groups and neighborhood people that say, hey, if you want to get together and you need a space, it doesn't cost you anything to do that. You can come over. We'll be able to host it depending on what you are. If you're somebody that is organized like an architect or a design firm and you're doing community outreach, maybe we may want to have a different conversation. But really, if you're a community neighborhood group and you want to get together, please use our space to do it. Also, another exciting thing, and I apologize, guys, I didn't bring the invitation to be able to show people, but we're doing a first ever tour of our projects, active construction sites in the Burbank area and surrounding neighborhoods. We're going to be taking a small group of people Sunday at 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on a tour of our projects that are under construction. So I think that's going to be really exciting for everybody to see. Um, I think it's going to go great, and we're going to be able to do it again. So be sure to follow us, get on our email list so that the next one, when it comes up, you can get on, sign in, and get on that next one.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because right now, if I am not mistaken, we are full up.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Let me double check. We had 3 slots. Oh, there is one seat left. If anyone would like to join us on Sunday from 9 to noon on the shuttle tour of our properties.
Thank you, Matt. That's great.
Awesome.
All righty. No one has put anything in the Q&A. If anyone has a question, raise your hand. I can make it so you're able to speak as well. Otherwise, no? All right. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight, and I hope you found this very useful. Jonathan, David, thank you guys very much for your time and for putting together this presentation. I hope everyone gets a lot out of it.
Jonathan, I really appreciate all the work that you put into it and being able to offer your expertise to the folks that are looking at rebuilding. You did a fantastic job. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you both. Looking forward to continue to evolve in the community and excited about Sunday and getting to showcase some real-time construction projects to the community members.
Great.
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
all very much.
Take
Bye.
care, everyone. Good night.
Bye-bye.